It really is an honor in my career to be here at this 37th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Awards. And of course, like we know, we are here on the actual birthday of Dr. King. As it's been said, he would have been 96 years old today. And we are 5 days away from celebrating MLK Day across the nation. And on that same day, January 20th, we will see what I call not an inauguration, but a regime change. And that's why it's so amazing to be here in the great state of Maryland, because I think it's important to acknowledge, it's been said, the history that Maryland has had in honoring Dr. King. Many of you in this room, you were part of Maryland becoming the second state to recognize Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, the first being Illinois in 1973. Maryland would make this happen in 1974. And I bring that up because so many people came together to honor Dr. King. That's the type of unity and activism that we can learn from today. We are here right now on this day because of the work, the long game of over 50 years ago. Progress is not perfection. It's a long game. I think of the late state delegate Kenneth L. Webster. Tireless work to honor Dr. King. We're standing on his shoulders and so many others, and again, so many in this room. But as we're here on Dr. King's birthday, I think of my favorite book by Dr. King, his final book published in 1967. I'm sure many of y'all heard of it. If you haven't, get it now. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? Chaos or community? Ever since the election in November, I've had so many folks call into my Sirius XM show scared, concerned, anxious. They say, I don't know what's going to happen. My grandmother's on Social Security. I work for the federal government. Am I going to be fired? I have friends who are chronically ill and they need health care. What's going to happen to this new administration? Project 2025, how are we going to get by? And I think of Dr. King and I say, we are going to have to choose between chaos or community. 2024 was the year of chaos. 2025 must be the year of community. Now, I want to remind y'all a little bit of some of the chaos we saw last year. I think it's important to acknowledge it. I think it's important to not erase it. I think it's important to remember it so we don't repeat it. Because we have folks trying to rewrite history from just 2 months ago. Trying to remix it, revise it. Because 2024 was exhausting. It was pure chaos. It felt like our very right to exist was being debated from cable news to social media to the barbershop. In 2024, we saw that a convicted felon could be elected president of the United States when some convicted felons can't even vote in this country. In 2024, we saw politicians trying to convince us the reason why you don't have a living wage or health care, or the reason why the rent is too high is because of Haitian immigrants or a drag queen. In 2024, we saw a candidate running for president selling watches and Bibles, yet his opponent was accused of being out of touch with the American people. In 2024, politicians said that their candidate was relatable to black people because he had a mugshot and sold gold shoes. In 2024, we saw that concepts of a plan was easier to understand than an actual opportunity agenda. That was more relatable. In 2024, we were told that it's the economy, stupid, the prices of eggs are just too high. Yet just a few weeks after the election, on this day called Black Friday, there was a record set of $10.8 billion in sales in one day, but it was all about the economy. In 2024, we were told that you could just turn black. You could just turn black. Like flipping a racial light switch. Black, Asian, black, Asian. And then there were some of those melanated Republicans. Some black Republicans. You know, the ones who complained about black fathers not staying with black women. And they were folks saying about black fathers staying with the black mother. Yet they themselves aren't even married to a black woman. Ain't that something? And after all that, you didn't even get a job in the presidential cabinet. That's some of the chaos we endured in 2024. And I gotta be honest, I'm not desensitized to it. It does stun me that we are 5 days away from the grifter-in-chief being back in the White House. And then we have 92 million people who didn't vote at all. They didn't even bother to show up. And I got a message for them. You may not do politics, but politics will do you. As Nina Simone said, that'll learn you. So as someone who's degreed in black studies, it's the history that haunts me. The history just is in my mind. I think about Frederick Douglass saying, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. I think of Dr. King saying, I have a dream, but by 1967, he said the dream has turned into a nightmare. I think of Fannie Lou Hamer saying, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. But then I think of Reverend Jesse Jackson saying, keep hope alive. Then I think of President Barack Obama saying, yes, we can. Then I think of Vice President Kamala Harris saying, when we fight, we win. And after all of that, in my mind, I say, how in the world did we get back to the dog whistle of Make America Great Again 5 days away? But again, 2024 was the year of chaos. 2025 must be the year of community. And this is why I'm asking you to embrace a mantra for 2025. Observe, not absorb. Observe, not absorb. Observe, not absorb. Observe the madness, but don't let it consume you. You don't have to take on every fight. You don't got to take it all on. Sometimes this battle is not yours. If you're talking to a flat earther, that is not a debate. That is not a discussion. That is not a potential argument you have to attend. Be like First Lady Michelle Obama. You don't have to attend their circus. And you don't even got to give an explanation. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying don't fight. I'm only saying we cannot follow every step of the chaos. We can't go down every rabbit hole. We got to focus on solutions and building community. And we can do this because we've done it before. We have to face this head on and choose unity. We saw it from black soldiers united during the Civil War. And that's the only reason why we won that Civil War, was because of black soldiers who were allowed to fight. The South was winning until Lincoln finally said, we're going to let black soldiers fight. As one of my heroes, the late great Lerone Bennett Jr. said, Lincoln was forced into glory. As Reverend Al Sharpton said, Lincoln didn't free the slaves freed Lincoln. That was us. We saw this unity during the Reconstruction era. We saw this unity during the Civil Rights Movement. We saw this unity when freeing Angela Davis. We saw this unity when making Dr. King's birthday a federal holiday. We saw this unity when we re-elected President Barack Obama, the first and only time in recorded history. The turnout rate of black voters surpassed the rate of white voters in 2012. But then I have people say, Clay, we don't have the leaders we used to have. We don't have the community like we used to have. We need another Black Wall Street. And I say, wait a minute now. Let's know our history. Let's go to the great state of Maryland. Maryland, the state that gave us Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman and Billie Holiday, a former slave state. Maryland has two of the wealthiest black counties in the country. Look at your leadership. Your governor is black. Governor Wes Moore, the only black governor in the country. Only the 5th in the country's history. Only the 3rd to be elected. Your Speaker of the Maryland House of Delegates is black, Adrian Jones. Your state treasurer is black, Eric E. Davis. Your attorney general is black, Anthony Brown. Your state has elected a black woman to go to the U.S. Senate for only the 3rd time in history, Senator Angela Alsobrook. I can go on and on and on. Maryland is a great example of choosing community, because in 2025, we have to look locally. I know what's happening at the federal level, but you gotta look down to your state, your city council, your block, maybe even your apartment building. Local. But where Maryland is today, it is the greatest dream of Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Dr. King, and Congressman Parren Mitchell. Again, we can't forget these shoulders. As you already heard, proceeds from tonight's event will go to build a memorial for Congressman Parren Mitchell, a Vietnam veteran with 2 Purple Hearts. I should point out that he was drafted into that war, and he would go on to oppose the Vietnam War in Congress, and never, ever, ever voted to fund war. How about that? How about that? One of the founders of the Congressional Black Caucus. As was mentioned before, he became the first black American to earn a graduate degree from the University of Maryland. In 1970, he became the first black American to be elected from Maryland to Congress, and he won by 38 votes. 38 votes. Goes to show you every vote counts. He did amazing things when he was in Congress, and I gotta take a moment to mention this, because this is what you call community building when you have access to the power. He put in this set-aside legislation. He attached an amendment to a bill, which is one of the largest government contracting pieces of legislation, that called for a 10% set-aside for black businesses. So if you were going to do business with the federal government, you must contract black folks. That's leadership. He was a human rights activist, a professor, an organizer. But what I love the most is Congressman Parren Mitchell. His legacy is that with all of his success, when he got elected to Congress, he never left Maryland. Never forgot his community. He never even lived in Washington, D.C. He would drive to D.C. every single day while he was in Congress. And on Congressman Mitchell's wall, there was an award that read, "One of God's Angry Men." But his niece, Lisa Mitchell, she corrected that. She said her uncle was righteous indignation and passionate. See, sometimes you got all that passion, when you care that much about your community, they call you angry. So part of this memorial is because too many people do not know Congressman Parren Mitchell's legacy, and I really encourage you to donate. Or even the legacy of the Mitchell family at large in Maryland, like his brother Clarence Mitchell. And it's not the fault of the random kid who may not know, right? It's the fault of those in power who have not made it a priority to know his name. That's why this memorial is so crucial. As it was said before, without the late Congressman Parren Mitchell, who passed away in 2007, there would be no Governor Westmore. There would be no Senator Angela Also Brooks. We're on his shoulders. So in the name of Congressman Parren Mitchell, I want to see people follow the lead of the great state of Maryland. And in the name of community, which has unity tied into it, to not give up fighting. So with all that said, people tend to think because we have a twice impeached convicted felon found liable of sexual assault in a civilian court going back to the White House, that all is lost, that everything has fallen apart. But what would Congressman Parren Mitchell say? Are we going to let one loss erase all the work? See, the other side, they will turn a loss into a win. Sometimes we can turn a win into a loss with our pessimism. We can't ignore all the progress because the other side managed to get reelected. Dr. King wrote, and where do we go from here, chaos or community? To lightly dismiss a success because it does not usher in complete order of justice is to fail to comprehend the process of achieving full victory. It underestimates the value of confrontation and dissolves the confidence born of a partial victory by which new efforts are powered. In other words, progress may be incremental, but it's still progress. Every step fuels the next step. Again, progress, not perfection. During this next administration, we cannot sit down. Now is not the time to give up. We got to be more activated than ever. Take advantage of the moment. There's no just waiting out the next 4 years. We need to work harder and work stronger. And I know it's hard when you see people in Congress or in media going down to Florida and metaphorically kissing the ring. All these demands for civility when the president-elect breathes incivility. But that just means we gotta hold ourselves to a higher standard. It means standing firm in our values and refusing to be distracted by performative gestures. And we gotta fight for decency. So I'm not gonna lie to you. The road ahead is gonna be tough. But this is not the first storm we faced. My grandfather would always tell me, there's got to be a little bit of rain for the sunshine to come. And I love that Sweet Honey in the Rock was brought up. One of my favorite groups, they said, when there is a promise of a storm, walk into it. On the other side, you will be different. That transformation is our power. So I want you to take a few things away from what I said tonight. 1, observe, not absorb. 2, anchoring community, not the chaos. 3, honor and call on the great people who have done the work before you or alongside you. The blueprint is already there. It's not anything groundbreaking. We can fight this. 4, get your rest, recharge, turn off cable news, turn off social media. They want that algorithm to absorb into your soul, to scare you so much that you won't fight back, to scare you into obedience. They ultimately want obedience. And 5, lastly, for all the fear, frustration, anxiousness I've heard, I want to leave you with my favorite Bible verse. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Be anxious for nothing. Be anxious for nothing. Be anxious for nothing. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here tonight. I truly appreciate you. I have all the faith and what we can do moving forward. Thank you so much, Chairman.